if we go back in time in your story, can you tell us a bit about younger version of Laura, how you grew up, family, the childhood era of your life, basically?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, super, super young, obviously, it was like every kid just living my best life. But I grew up in a really, like, highly dysfunctional home. So, my parents were constantly fighting, and I didn't know how to deal with that really. I was just doing my best to navigate through it and kind of stay out of their way when I was really young. But as I started getting a little bit older, I started getting brought into that, which really started impacting my mental health. And I struggled really badly for most of my life with anxious depression. So, for if you guys don't really know what that is, it's kind of where you flip flop back and forth between being like hyperly anxious and then being like depressed for like periods of time. So you have these like roller coaster kind of waves. And I kind of just suffered in silence for most of my life with that experience. I didn't express it to anybody else. It was like, this is just what I'm dealing with, and I have to deal with it alone. Like, it was something that I kind of just automatically knew that it was mine. And I had this instinct of like to be self-healing because no one in my environment was wanting, or not wanting, but didn't have the tools, let's say, to be able to change what was happening. And so I was like, I'm going to do it for myself.
For our viewers and us on the table listening to you, what does a dysfunctional family look like, right? Because we all have things that happen behind closed doors in our families, but
Totally.
you describe it as dysfunctional. What was that looking like for you in your life?
Yeah. So the way that I would describe the differences between a functional family and a dysfunctional family is the way that you treat each other, the way that you choose to actively communicate and repair when conflict happens. Because every single family, every relationship that you have within your life, there's going to be conflict,
Absolutely.
right? Like, that's a normal thing to have. That's actually a good thing.
Absolutely.
Like, you're not the same person.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
You can debate, have conflict, and resolve without...
Exactly.
Disagree is okay too.
Exactly. But a big, big sign that you are within a dysfunctional home or a dysfunctional relationship is that there's no repair, that there's one or many people that is inflicting their narrative, I would say, or projecting their narrative of like my way or the highway, and everybody else has to follow along. Otherwise, you get like either emotionally abandoned or literally abandoned. So many kids experience that within their homes of feeling like if I do or say the wrong thing, I'm no longer going to be loved.
Definitely my case right here.
Yeah. Right? And that's a big sign that you're living in a dysfunctional family is when your home is not a place of safety. If you feel like your home is a safe place as a kid, your whole life is going to be completely different versus the kid that grows up in an environment of, I don't know if it's even safe to be myself. Because if I am myself, I might be abandoned.
Yeah.
And the worst part is that sometimes it's almost like adults won't even know they're doing it. And sometimes they are aware because they've been told so many times and they just choose not to.
Yeah.
So there's different levels to why the person would be inflicting the pain. But thank you for that definition.
Of course.
That was very moving.
What were you going through as a traumatic experience with your parents, and how did you get out of it? What helped you get out of it?
Yeah. So for me, when it came, so both my parents came from really abusive households in different ways. And I won't go into extreme detail because they were very, very traumatic. Like, my mom ended up in the newspaper. Her childhood was so devastatingly traumatic. Like, I would never wish upon anybody what she had to live through. And I have incredible amounts of compassion and empathy for both of them because I know, like, the fact that they are the way they are today is actually a miracle. Even though they caused incredible amounts of pain, they were doing the best given what they went through, right? But to get back to your question, in terms of what I was dealing with them, as simply as I could possibly explain it, was their unhealed wounds. When it came to my mom, she suffers with narcissistic personality disorder, specifically covert narcissistic personality disorder. There are 6 different categories for narcissism. And then with my father, he also experienced a lot of abuse. He doesn't have a personality disorder, but it was more that his nervous system would be activated and he would go into that fawn or flight state. He would just want to escape and like appease her instead of actually facing her. And he actually would resort to being a child when my mom would have her explosive states. So again, I won't go into extreme detail about narcissistic personality disorder. It is, interestingly enough, almost like a little bit of an epidemic right now. It's estimated 1 in 6 people have narcissistic personality disorder, which is quite high. And there's kind of a spectrum of like level of intensity. And again, there's those different categories as well. And that's kind of an important piece to keep in mind. But
how did that reflect in the interaction with you personally?
yeah. So when you grow up with a parent that has narcissistic personality disorder, it really impacts your mental health because they live in almost an alternative version of reality. And you are forced to live in that version of reality with them. And if you don't, you get tortured. And that sounds like a very big word and dramatic word to use, but that is what it is. They literally, okay, as an example, let's say.
Yes, please.
Sorry?
I said yes, please.
Okay. This is a very small one, but just to give you kind of an idea, at one point before I left home with my ex-partner, he had come to stay with us, which I was like, good luck. You'll see how things are, and then you'll not want to stay here. And that turned out exactly to be the case. But we had moved into a room in the basement of my parents' house, and we went to hang up a TV on the wall, and we didn't ask permission or her opinion of the height of where to hang the TV. And she was hurt by this, and we apologized, and we were like, we're sorry, we could have waited, you're right, like, do you want us to adjust the height? Like, reasonable reaction. It's not a matter of proving whether you're right or you're wrong or any of that. The apology doesn't mean anything. If you have hurt a narcissist, at least this is the case with a covert narcissist, if you've hurt them, it doesn't matter what you say. Their goal is now to do everything in their power to hurt you, but to a point that you have an actual mental breakdown. Like their goal is to break you. Like imagine like if you watch those movies where somebody's in like a room being tortured by somebody, that's what it's like. And that sounds dramatic, but it's exactly what it's like to experience having a narcissistic parent. They torture you for hours and hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks on end about the same thing. And it's a cycle. So essentially...
What? Wow.
So it'll be like, you hung the TV at this thing, you didn't listen to me, I'm hurt. And then you apologize. And then, no, you're not hearing me. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, right? Can you explain to me? I really want to understand. They say word for word the exact same thing. You're like, okay, yeah, I thought I understood that. That's why I said this. No, you didn't hear me. And it goes this cycle. And then eventually you're like.
You mean for a few minutes?
For hours and hours. Sometimes you get kept up all night. Sometimes you get, okay, we're okay right now. Then it continues the next day. It's the goal is to break you to the point where you grovel and you're like, I'm so sorry. Like you're crying. And then when they break you, then they shame you for it. They shame you for your response. So let's say as a kid, for me, she started doing this to me when I was about 11 years old. So as a kid, normal reaction after receiving the same thing over and over again, hearing the same thing, anybody would break down, either get angry or start crying. If I would start crying, she'd be like, oh, you're being so dramatic. Are you really crying right now? But you're hurting me. And so everything becomes about what your reactions and how your reactions are the problem. And it is like literally... You sit there and you're like, how is this even happening right now that I'm not able to get through? But they're the person that's saying that I'm not hearing them. And no matter what you say, doesn't matter. Until they get the reaction that they want, until they break you in the way that they want you to be broken, it won't stop. You start to question yourself. And so they literally make you not trust your own judgment anymore. You don't know what's real anymore. You think their word is the truth and that you are the crazy one, and they make you crazy. And so there are 4 possible outcomes. This is like a dark fact, but it gave me a lot of hope when I was at the very beginning stages of my healing journey. And I was obsessively learning everything I could about narcissism. And it was like, there are 4 possible outcomes when you leave a narcissistic abusive relationship. 1, you have a mental breakdown. I was like, check. 2, you take your life, which I almost did. Thankfully, I didn't. Yeah. 3, you become a narcissist yourself. Or 4, you heal. And I was terrified terrified that I was going to become exactly like her. So terrified. And I was like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be the polar opposite of her. And obviously, like, there will always be parts of my mom that are in me, and there's so many beautiful good parts of her. And this is a thing too that I want to kind of emphasize about narcissistic personality disorder or any mental health condition, which is there will always be good in every single person, right? Even if somebody has mental illness, there's still these beautiful parts. And I think that's also why a lot of people stay in abusive relationships for long periods of time, is because they cling on to the goodness within the person.